आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate. Arnab Goswami on the debate.
On the show tonight, trying to stay, very hard to stay relevant, Trump is pushing the US into West Asia's crisis. And Donald Trump shares lunch with the Pahalgam butcher, a US president backing the terror attack mastermind. And ladies and gentlemen, right at the very start, I'd like to say that of course, we support Israel because of all that Israel has gone through. And for the way in which the Iranians, indirectly using the Hamas, tried to attack Israel and kill thousands of Israelis on October 7th. But I do not agree with the unilateralism of a man called Donald Trump. The world is in a dangerous position today because of Donald Trump and American unilateralism. America believes it can do whatever it wants, wherever it wants, kill as many people as it needs to or wants to, destroy cities, destroy homes, butcher people, join hands with dictators, support terrorist groups when needed, when it suits their strategic convenience, basically do whatever the hell they want to do. And we have to be extremely careful about allowing a man like Donald Trump to get away with everything. Now, the International Atomic Energy Agency have said that they have no proof that Iran is making a nuclear bomb. But that is the reason why America says it's going to bomb Iran. It's going to kill Khomeini. The Director General of the IAEA has said that we did not have any proof of a systematic effort to move into a nuclear weapon. Now, does that matter? I think it does. Because if you want to destroy a country, if you want to invade a country, if you want to carry out regime change, you need a better justification than that. And history proves that in 2003, when they invaded Iraq, President Bush claimed at that point of time from the US that Saddam was continuing to stockpile and manufacture weapons of mass destruction, and that Iraq was part of an international axis of evil along with Iran and North Korea. Later, the US report released in 2004 revealed that Saddam Hussein had destroyed his last weapons of mass destruction more than a decade ago, which means that 461,000 people died in Iraq from war-related causes, which were nothing but a lie, an absolute falsehood. Now, viewers, we'll have to be very, very careful. America does what it wants, and America is not India's constant friend at all. We remember when they tried to send a fleet in 1971 to stop us from liberating Bangladesh. We'll never forget that. When in December 1971, during the India-Pakistan war, they sent the 7th Fleet, led by the USS Enterprise, into the Bay of Bengal to threaten us. Now you have a man called Donald Trump in charge. Very unpredictable, very difficult to trust, impossible to believe. And by the way, who is America to do regime change whenever they want, at whichever point of time? Donald Trump's background is as a property broker. The world is not his personal property. He carried out, ladies and gentlemen, his country carried out regime change in Bangladesh. They threw out Sheikh Hasina. And today, Mohammed Yunus has taken over, the man who was felicitated by the Biden government, given the Presidential Medal of Honor in the United States, and today has destroyed Bangladesh in just a few months. So we have to be very careful about America's attempts to force regime change in different parts of the world. When different governments, different leaders do not do their bidding, that's when America says, let's change the regime. And what hypocrites they are. The same Donald Trump who said that North Korea better not make any threats to the United States, they will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. Later, he not only met Kim Jong-un, but even said that he had developed a very special bond with the North Korean dictator. The point I'm trying to say is, Donald Trump is a walking, talking crisis of an individual, and he will lead the world into a bigger crisis if he is not checked. Countries will have problems, battles will happen, disagreements will happen, but right now, if there is one problem the world has, that problem has a name, and that is Donald Trump.
I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction.
This is what US President Donald Trump said less than 24 hours ago. Then Israel woke up to these visuals this morning. Iran once again carried out overnight strikes on Israel, this time even hitting Israel's main hospital in Beersheba, causing unprecedented carnage.
This is the Soroka Hospital in southern Israel. You could see behind me that building of the hospital was hit by a missile from Iran early Thursday morning. The top of the building is basically blown off, and you could still see smoke smoldering from the side of it hours later.
Today they struck Iran's major nuclear facility, the Arak heavy water nuclear reactor, dealing a major blow to Tehran's plutonium enrichment program.
We're targeting military sites, we're targeting nuclear sites, we're targeting missile sites. They're targeting a hospital. They're the arch terrorists of the world. They want to have nuclear terrorism, which will put the entire world under nuclear blackmail, and they would use these weapons. That's what the Ayatollah Khamenei says that he would do. He would use these weapons to wipe Israel off the map. Well, he's not going to. We're not going to let him.
Meanwhile, Putin has broken his silence, saying that the Iranians have not yet reached out for any support in the war effort. However, he did confirm Russian specialists were still working at Iran's first nuclear power plant in Bushehr.
Господин Тальбей, если позволите, я надеюсь, что это будет самым правильным ответом на ваш вопрос. Я даже обсуждать такой возможности не желаю.
In another major development, Chinese President Xi Jinping held a telephonic conversation with Russian President Putin over war in West Asia and the possible US involvement, with both the sides calling for mediation efforts. Amidst escalating tensions, US is sending mixed signals. On one hand, Trump dispatched his top diplomat from Turkey and special envoy to Syria to Beirut, in Lebanon, to meet the president. US Navy has dispatched USS Gerald R. Ford, US's biggest and world's most modern aircraft carrier, to Europe, bringing in a third carrier closer to the Middle East. In 2023, the Ford carrier was deployed in Eastern and Mediterranean to project strength against Hamas. US allies are desperately trying to bring Trump back to the negotiating table.
Les échanges que nous avons pu avoir avec les autorités iraniennes, leur message a été relativement clair. Il y a une volonté de reprendre les discussions, y compris avec les États-Unis, à condition qu'un cessez-le-feu puisse intervenir.
The big question remains: is Iran-Israel confrontation going to explode into a regional conflict?
Now we have two voices from Israel tonight. We have Neta Bar, she's the foreign desk editor at the newspaper called Israel Hayon, joining us from Tel Aviv. Neta, thank you very much for joining us, Neta. And that's
Hello.
Ariala Rosenthal, Director of International Relations at the Ashdod Municipality, live from Ashdod in Israel. Well, nice to have you with us, Ariala. We have Tatiana with us. We all know her very well-known face, senior journalist from Moscow. Thank you so much, Tatiana. Matt Klink is pro-Trump. He's a Republican strategist, live from the United States. Thank you, Matt. We have Democratic leader Ajay Jain Bhutoria. He's anti-Trump. He's joining us. He's former advisor to President Biden, joining us from California. We have Professor Asif Ramiz Daudi. He's a Middle East expert and faculty member of the King Abdul Aziz University, and he's joining us from Patna. Thank you, Professor Asif. I hope you can hear me. And we have Syed Babar Ashraf Kechauchvi, who is totally pro-Iran and pro-Ayatollah Khamenei, and he's the Secretary General of the All India Mohammadi Mission. So we have different points of view. Yeah, we had a statement, Tatiana, and I want to start with you. The statement is from the International Atomic Energy Agency, which says that there is absolutely no proof that Iran is systematically making an effort to move into a nuclear weapon. This is a very important statement by its Director General Grossi. What implication do you think it will have at this time of the conflict?
I think, Arnab, that we need to understand that within the Israeli-Iran conflict, and this generally the conflict, I mean, not just this escalation, we need to understand that, as President Putin clearly said today, that it will be down to Tel Aviv and Tehran. I don't believe that any statement by Mr. Grossi at this point will make any difference whatsoever, because, first of all, Israel has already carried out the attack, and Tehran has already responded, and now we're in the repercussions of this. Anything that is said by the International Atomic Energy will be countered, and I do believe that, we all know that Mossad, for being quite thorough in their investigations and in their operations. So I do believe that anything that Mr. Grossi says will be countered from Tel Aviv and from Prime Minister Netanyahu's administration with counterproof.
Okay, now let me take that to the others. Let me take it to Professor Asif Ramiz Daudi. You see, the fundamental premise why America says that it will flatten Tehran is because they are saying Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Now, if this statement has come from the IAEA that they have no proof that Iran is making a nuclear bomb, what impact will that have? Even at this stage, Tatiana says it will have no impact. What do you think? Professor Asif?
Well, Arnab, it reminds me of what happened in Iraq years ago, and the same kind of situation, and the doubts are there. And what is happening today because of this, especially when Israel interfered in this after Gaza, after Palestine, and now because of this nuclear deal, because of this only, Israel attacked Iran and there is a retaliation. And I believe this escalation is not in a good taste, especially for the regional peace and security. And now, because they are going to do something for this reason that's there in the question that you asked, I'm not sure if this is going to happen, if they are going to find something there or not, but there is a proper way of doing things and right timing for this. When you started your debate, Arnab, you started with the attack on 7th October, which I personally condemn, and I think it should not have happened. And there is a connection because you started this debate from there. So I want to link it from there to this part. Like here, after that attack, when tens of thousands of Palestinians, especially in Gaza, women, children, and many innocent people were also killed. So when there were attacks on hospitals, and today in your report, when I was watching the reports and statement of the Prime Minister, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, saying that Iran attacked the hospitals while they are not attacking this. Okay, I'm not going to go into this, what is right or what is wrong, because there are many narratives going around and the world is watching, and I have no direct proof of this. But what I'm saying, if they have the feeling that the hospitals should not be attacked, then this should also be applied when they attack the Palestinian people in Gaza. If you have the clips of those attacks when lots of thousands of Palestinians were killed.
See, it's beyond that. I feel to some extent, yeah. But Professor Asif, we can't build up the entire history right now. I want Neta Bar to respond, Ariala to respond from Israel, but we can't go through now 20 years of history. We are on a precipice. Either we reconcile, and if Iran is not working on a nuclear bomb, then let people come in, verify, check, or neutralize if required. To deny, but at the same time to carry out hostilities are two double-faced actions, if I may say so. Nita, do you feel there is any possibility of a resolution? A. B, if I say to you, Nita, that I would trust Netanyahu over Trump. Nobody can trust Trump. I mean, he likes keeping the world guessing. Netanyahu is more steady and more predictable. But my concern is it in Netanyahu's hands now anymore?
Well, what I have to say is this. I don't want to make this about the type of leadership Donald Trump is putting forward in the world. I can say that personally, I do not like his decision. I did not like his decision to invite the Pakistani military chief to Washington. I think it's strange and unfitting. I did not like the fact that he took credit for mediating between Pakistan and India, which he probably didn't. But I have to say that this thing is more of an sort of an Israeli thing, because for us, it's an existential threat. We cannot live in the Middle East where Iran has a nuclear weapon. And even if there is the slightest chance that they're working right now on a nuclear weapon, and I spoke with people in the IDF, people in the intelligence department of the IDF, and there is evidence to show that while they were not putting the bomb together just yet, they have all the parts and they are ready to do so, which is why Israel attacked. I think that's the only thing that Israel sees as a must in this situation. And we acted, and we would act without American support. We would act without American intervention. And I think that if America would intervene, we hope that it will be in order to stop Iran from having having nuclear weapons. This is very different from what we've seen in the Iraq war. There is no plan or no strategy to invade Iran. Nobody wants to invade Iran. And even when we talk about regime change, it's up to the Iranian people to rise up and change their regime. Nobody's going to do it for them, and I hope they will do so, because it's a corrupt and cruel and religious regime which should not exist. But saying that nobody is talking about invasion of Iran, and the only goal in Israel's perspective is destroying Iran's nuclear program. And if Iran will come with a reasonable plan to show that it has no nuclear weapon, or to show that it has dismantled all nuclear facilities, then I think Israel will be willing to accept it and stop the attack. But we haven't seen anything like it. Donald Trump gave them a lot of time for talks, and they had a proposition, an American proposition, which could have enforced a situation in which it will be proven beyond reasonable doubt that they don't have nuclear weapons, which they rejected vehemently and counter.
No, but again, you know, I get that. Nita, see, we're dealing with a man called Donald Trump. I mean, the whole world has problems with him. Even his supporters have in different degrees. And when he is making it look like a game of digital chess, he's not looking serious. Matt, what do you think? You know, I have Matt with us. I have Ajay Jain with us in California. When he says, I'm not looking at a ceasefire, Matt, I'm looking at better than a ceasefire. Anything that is not a ceasefire is continued bloodshed. What does it mean? Does it mean occupation? Does it mean regime change? What do you think he means?
If we know anything about Mr. Donald Trump, which is, again, I told you I dislike his foreign policy. If we learned anything about it, that he is not willing, and he does not have the support to pay a large price in either American blood or American money. If you go for anything that is
that's it, Nita.
It will be probably
let me throw that same question to Matt. Matt, what do you think?
Thank you for allowing me to get a word in here. Look, I think that Donald Trump right now, I know that I can tell you're a real big fan of the president. I know that Donald Trump at this point has thoroughly supported Israel in its efforts to denuclearize Iran. Israel has been very, very successful. Donald Trump is weighing plans of whether America would get involved to take out the centrifuges at the Fordo enrichment facility. However, he hasn't made up his mind yet, and I know it might be frustrating, but it would be stupid for Donald Trump to outline his plans for the world's news media, which ultimately would get telegraphed back to the mullahs. I can tell you, though, what is a couple things are true, and well, again, your hatred of President Trump, it can't overtake the fact that Iran is the greatest source of terror in the world. They promote instability in the Middle East. October 7 was largely driven by Iran proxies, and the fact that Iran sat at a negotiating table for 60 days and was anything but serious, and on day 61, Israel went on the offensive against Iran. Bravo for Israel for making the world a safer place. And that being said, America does not have the tolerance for regime change. Donald Trump has been very, very vocal on that. And I agree with the previous speaker who said that it's on the Iranian people to realize that the theocratic government in Iran, if they want to have regime change, they need to make it happen, but it's not going to be American boots on the ground.
Yeah, see, no, Matt, I don't hate anyone. I find Donald Trump amusing, which is a different sentiment from hate. Everyone finds him amusing. You also, I'm sure, find him amusing. He's a great source of entertainment. But I'm only saying historically here that in the past, see, we must never undermine the other side. Even Tatiana would agree with me that even Putin should...
the other side?
Now let me explain to you what the other side is. Let me explain to you. See, Americans should not be arrogant. Americans cannot afford to be arrogant. See, what happened to the Bush administration? Let me take you historically back a little bit into American history.
Oh, I know my history probably better.
Then let me know. I'm sure you think you do. I'm sure you think you do, and nobody can stop you from thinking that way. But let me tell you a few things. You see, the Bush administration had described the Iraq invasion as a cakewalk, expecting a very quick triumph within 24 hours. Okay, now Trump's rhetoric suggests a similar confidence, okay, with talks of quote-unquote swift deployment. Now, in the war that followed, 8 years and 9 months of combat operations, 4,400 American soldiers died, 32,000 soldiers were wounded, and 100,000 Iraqi civilians had died by 2011. The US at that point of time conservatively spent $3 trillion at the war. Right? At the peak of the war, 170,000 US troops were deployed in Iraq. Today, you have 40,000 around the Middle East. Okay? And Pentagon reported 34,000 insurgent attacks in 2005 alone. The point I'm trying to make is this, that Trump came on a promise of no war and peace. I am sure at some level, the American people, given the various challenges in America, and Trump himself, will have to reconcile himself to the possibility that things can get stretched. Things can get stretched. So Ariella, you want to get in on that? Go on.
Yes, I want to say a couple of things that I'm listening here in the debate. First of all, for decades, Iran has conducted clandestine acts of hostility against Israel in every possible domain, if it's by land, air, and cyberspace, and more. And also, it has, of course, wielded Iran's proxy network of terrorists and armed groups like the Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the Hamas. So for us, for the state of Israel, this is actually a war for the existence of the state of Israel. Unlike other countries in the Middle East and in the world, this is a real threat on the people of Israel and on the state of Israel. So with all my favor to all the other countries around the world, and of course to America, that is our closest ally, but Israel at the end has to do what it has to do. It has to cut the head of the snake. And as we did this unique and outraging operation, at the end, it's for us that will deal with the Iranian regime. And
Ariella, you have absolutely a right to do that, and you know very well that there is no greater supporter of Israel's right to fight back than me, and I've done many hundreds of programs on this. My position on terrorism is absolutely clear. I am just wondering, it's a curiosity in my mind, whether the Americans know what they may be getting into, because no complications and no disrespect here, 622 days since the war, 53 hostages are still there with the Hamas. In today's world, I think Trump may be wrong in assuming there is anything like a short war. If after Iraq, after Vietnam, after Afghanistan, if America still thinks there's something called a short war, they've got their history wrong. So there is a, and I don't think the American people will stand there solidly behind Trump. He may want this for the midterms which are coming in. Right? What do you think, Ajay Jain from California? What do you think?
Absolutely, Arnab. I agree that Trump was voted into power for bringing peace, and he said he promised he will end the Ukraine war and war with Gaza. He completely failed, and 60% of Americans do not support the U.S. getting into war with Iran at this point of time. As you said, we have to learn from the history. The getting into Iran and Afghanistan war cost us $6 trillion, 7,000 U.S. troops, and repeating this mistake in Iran is reckless. Americans want jobs and healthcare, and he has failed in trade deals. And all, he's saying that he's going into war because Iran is supporting one of the biggest sponsors of terrorism, which it is, and I strongly support Israel. But at the same time, he's hosting on the same day Pakistan, Asif Munir, who is another biggest sponsor of terrorism, into a White House lunch. So how does that work? I mean, he's failing his foreign policy completely, destroying his relationship with one of the strongest partner, India, which is it needs to come counterbalance China by siding with the terrorist country Pakistan, and there's no clear interest for US to get involved in this war. Iran does not pose direct threat to US soil. By getting into the war, it will create a situation where all the US 40,000 plus US soldiers which are
Abhay, I'm also concerned. I'm also curious to know what Russia and China will do. I would be concerned to see what they do, Tatiana. Today, the Russian Foreign Ministry has told Israel to stop attacks on a nuclear plant where Russian specialists work. Russia works closely on nuclear plants in Iran. Is Russia and China just going to sit there and do nothing? Absolutely nothing, right? As this escalates. Tatiana, what do you think? Yes.
The president has already said that he's in contact with both Tehran and Tel Aviv. He's in contact with Prime Minister Netanyahu. And I believe, especially judging from the massive rallies against Netanyahu back when he was just elected, with the laws that he tried to pass, and passed actually, that Israeli people know that it's quite a close connection. So I do believe there is information that is being exchanged there. But let's please come back slightly to reality about Donald Trump engaging in a war on Iranian soil. Again, this conflict is and will be down to Tehran and Tel Aviv. In the past decade, the US, even in Ukraine, which you rightly mentioned, it doesn't act directly, it acts through proxies. It will never go into actual war on Iranian soil. I don't believe we've heard Donald Trump make all sorts of statements. And you know that he is brilliant in his manipulation of social media. Sometimes it gains him favor, sometimes it gains him just a lot of media attention, but he does that. He's been doing that since his first term, and we all know that. So
but Tatiana, when the Russian President Vladimir Putin offered to mediate, you know how rudely Trump responded. He said, thank you, but you mind your own business. Essentially, he said that. Let's talk about Ukraine first. So here is a person who's unilateral in nature. I believe in multilateralism. I'm sure Russia believes in multilateralism, but he doesn't.
I completely disagree with you, Arnab, in saying that he is unilateral in nature. I believe that the Democratic Party is much more unilateral than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is just much more abrupt and direct about what he is trying to put forward as a message. But he is much more negotiable with than any person from the other side. We've seen Joe Biden and the people in his administration be completely unilateral in every situation concerning, foreign policy. So I disagree with all of, every single emotion that is that Donald Trump evokes in me personally. You can't say that he's unilateral. He's actually somebody that people can and other parties can talk to, despite his great announcement that he's going to end one war in one day. Occupy or whatnot, bomb Tehran to the ground. He's never going to do that.
Which is why, precisely, Tatiana, strangely, I completely agree with you. Which is why, here is a man, Tatiana, I think he's unpredictable, but I also think he is foolish, because one day he says that I'm going to destroy and kill Kim Jong-un, and the other day he flies down to Singapore to meet him, so I don't take him seriously. I just want someone like Neta to tell me that Netanyahu is still in charge. Because I'm not sure. By the way, let me tell you, Netanyahu can't depend on Trump at all. Tomorrow, Trump can go and sit and have dinner with Khamenei and have a wonderful and warm meeting with the Hamas, like he has done with the Syrian terrorist who's become president at Saudi's behest. You see, so I do not know. If you put all your eggs in one basket, I am a great supporter of Israel. But I do not think a great country like Israel needs to be directed by a person like Trump. And I know, Neta, you are also uncomfortable with it. You're a proud nation. with a fighter as your president, I'm sure you're uncomfortable with it. You may not want to say it, but you're queasy about it.
I think everything so far had proved that in this specific case, it is Donald Trump that's going after Israel than Israel going after Trump. Donald Trump actually took credit for actions Israel has already committed during the war, like defending its airspace, like destroying the air defense in Iran, saying we destroyed the Iranian air defense. He spots a victory, then he wants to be part of it. There's no much more to it than that. And for Israel, the moment Iranian missiles are no longer a threat, then this thing is over. I mean, the moment the nuclear program of Iran is no longer a threat to Israel, Israel has no further interest in this situation. Iranian proxies are mostly dealt with as far as Israel sees it. Hamas is taking a very big hit. Hezbollah even bigger. Syria is under new leadership. As far as we can see it, the Houthis are maybe a nuisance, but they're not an existential threat. So for all that Israel cared, the moment we are assured that at least for the coming years, Iran is not able to develop nuclear weapons, we'll just walk out of it. And I think that's what Netanyahu is planning. And that's the way things look here right now.
Yeah, but you know, when you threaten too much, God knows what the other side will do. I don't know. What do you think Iran means when it says irreparable damage to the United States? I think personally, Syed Babar Ashraf from Lucknow is a very well-known Shia leader and Secretary General of the All India Mohammadi Mission. One thing which is clear to me, Syed Babar Ashraf Saab, is that the Muslim world is totally divided. There is nothing called Muslim unity among all these countries. In fact, there are more Muslim countries in the region that are against Israel than non-Muslim countries, against Iran. Khamenei is all alone. You may support him in Lucknow, but nobody is supporting him anywhere else in the world, sir.
First, Arnab, I'm not Shia, I'm Sufi.
Sorry, Sufi, sorry.
But to start, right, I'm from Sunni Al-Sunnat wal Jama'ah. Arnab, you see the perspective basically, and you will find that Iran is facing sanctions since 1979. 8 crore and odd Iranians are suffering because of those sanctions, which are basically imposed by the civilized world that is called Western powers, and which includes US and Israel. And nobody till now into the last 46 years has raised that yes, Iran should be in a position to do the trade, to develop their nation, and they should be allowed. At one part you see, Arnab, that Israel is non-signatory to the nuclear non-proliferation treaty and possessor of nuclear weapons. And at another, if you will see, the Israel is basically raising a question on Iran not to go for the nuclear part. Once this basically dialogue was going on between US and Israel, US and Iran, why Israel interfere and why he has attacked over there? Motive is very one. This Israel and US nexus and the Western powers are assisting them mainly to grab the power and to usurp the resources which is lying in the Arab world. And you are talking why there is basically conflict between Iran and Arabian countries. This is very much clear. Iran was never an ally of US and Western powers. While this Saudi Arab, Jordan and other nations are basically created by these Western powers. And they are simply a puppet. There is a pact between Saudi Arab, Qatar and other nations, that energy and security pact, and they were not allowed to develop militarily.
Sir, you have been funded. Sir, the Iranians are playing victim now. I'm not sure. Sir, today your argument is that Iran is a victim. It's not. It's not. It's not. So how can you claim victimhood while funding proxies like the Houthis, the Hezbollah?
You see, Arnab, one thing.
1 minute. 1 minute. It's on. Ariella is responding from Israel. Ariella.
7 years.
Yeah, go on. Ariella is responding from Israel. Two views. Just 1 minute. Ashraf Saab, let Ariella respond to you. Two on the screen.
They never have posed a threat to any nation.
Given money to kill.
You may not be able to provide a single example in which you can say Iran ever have posed a threat
Ariana, louder.
to any neighboring countries.
Ariella, louder, down to the other. Yeah.
Manufactured by your country that have killed my people on the 7th of October and for over the years by all the weapons and funds and missiles and training and guidance, except of taking all the money and the donations to the people, for example, the Hamas, and give them for a better future of their people, not buying money to enhance in tunnels, to find weapons, to kill people. I'm very sorry, this is unacceptable. Instead of enriching in education and free world values and giving the people a better future, Iran chose to nurture the Hamas, the Houthis, and more and the Hezbollah, and go against freedom and values of goodwill and better beneficiary for all. And this is unacceptable. So don't come today and ask why Israel has launched such a operation, not only, of course, for the elimination of all the nuclear weapons, but hopefully will show the Iranian people that they have a better option, and it's for them from bottom up.
But again, you mentioned this nuclear weapon angle. Now, here's a question to Matt, who's back, by the way. Matt,
yes.
Matt, I just again want to go back into history without irritating you, but the fact is that in 2003, I find a historical precedent that Bush and his administration sidelined all the intelligence questioning Iraq's WMD capabilities. Likewise, Trump has dismissed all the assessments from his director of national intelligence, his own director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who testified as recently as March 2025 that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. So who does one believe, Tulsi Gabbard or Trump? Who is more believable?
Okay, well, Tulsi Gabbard has subsequently walked that back. A March assessment was done by the Biden administration, which was very, very weak on Iran and gave them, hundreds of billions of dollars, which ironically enough allowed the Iranians to fund terror while continuing to build out their nuclear program. So look, you're making this connection that doesn't exist between Donald Trump and George W. Bush. They approached the world. George W. Bush was a neocon. Donald Trump is anything but. And I think that's why the Americans to date have not done anything offensively with Iran. Now, they may choose to do so, but they may not to choose so. So look, we can go back in history as far back as the early 1950s if you want, with America's involvement with Iran. But the bottom line is that since the mullahs took over the government in the early 1980s, Iran has been the largest source of global terror around the world. Any country that says that the nation of Israel does not have a right to exist and talks about exterminating Jews writ large, that's not normal. And that vocabulary should never be normalized. And anybody who says that Iran is a good actor,
But Matt, today, Donald Trump yesterday had lunch with the man who gave refuge to Osama bin Laden. How much are you going to tolerate?
A simple meeting. Look, we've been meeting with Iran too.
Not Iran. You sat with the Pakistani field marshal who was the local guardian for Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad in Pakistan.
A meeting. So then following your logic, America would be siding with Iran for meeting with Iran for 60 days. That just makes zero sense.
No, I mean,
the fact they had a meeting is simply that. It's just a meeting. America has been much strongly more aligned with India since the start of the second Trump administration, and simply holding a meeting.
Ajay, what do you think?
Is that insecure about the U.S. relationship? Boy, you guys need to get some backbone.
Thank you, Matt. Trump has completely destroyed U.S.-India relationship single-handedly. Most of the large percent of the Indian Americans voted for Trump this time just because they thought that U.S.-India relationship will grow. But each of them are coming back and saying, "Oh, we made a mistake." And what is happening is that equating a global power, India, with a regional terrorist power, regional terrorist sponsor, Pakistan, and Trump is doing that equation in like 30 speeches he has made around that shamelessly, that he brought U.S.-India war to conclude by trying for a Nobel Peace Prize. That's a shame. I mean,
I have a next discussion on that, so I won't take time on this one on it. Specific question to Neta Bar, please. Now, there are apparently 3 or 4 major nuclear sites which need to be destroyed as far as Israel is concerned. And you have the names, I'm sure I do. One is Natanz, right? But the big one, which is 100 meters under the ground, Fordo, right? There's Isfahan, there's Natanz, and there is Fordo. Am I right? These are the 3 names. Now, is it true that Israel does not have the technology to go deep and destroy Fordo? And that is where you need American help.
Yes, the point of needing an American help on this is not in order to do it. Israel, if it puts its mind to it, can do it in a series of very complicated moves. It has plans already, and it will commit it if American aid won't come. But the United States have the ability to do it quickly, which is something Israel prefers, in order to finish this operation as quickly as possible and finish this this engagement with Iran.
Tatiana, will it end with that? Will everyone else just let America do it and pull back?
I don't think that right now this would be the outcome. I don't think that the US is going to go in and just bomb those factories. We'll need to wait and see, but I do believe that would be America taking any kind of action. Israel and Iran have been at their throats for many years. I know that as much as my Israeli colleagues. Both sides say, look, Neta, you can make all the faces in the world. You know that this conflict did not start yesterday or last week or last year, right? So this is going to be this conflict. America stepping in directly and bombing anything actually in Tehran would be a whole other different story. It's just like, London launching missiles on Moscow. That would be a whole different story. Yeah. That's a whole lot bigger of a conflict, and I don't believe that Donald Trump is going for it anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, as they say, I mean, with Donald Trump, I always feel his bark is louder than his bite, more effective or not, I don't know. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on that feisty conversation. We have a more feisty conversation coming up on what we here in India think about Trump having lunch with the butcher of Pahalgam when I'm back.
Time for a quick breather. Arnab will be right back.
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला। सिप सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप।